We continue the flashback and see Cry and his companions. He's showing them the ancient tools he collected. Of course, they get excited. They're all thrilled to have relics. It's normal. Whenever the master has some money, he wastes it on ancient tools. Miss tells him, "You promised you'd pick one for me." Luke says, "Come on, don't you know we also want a third one?" She replies, "I want one too, as long as he keeps charging it for me all the time." Cry tells them, "Calm down, each of you will take one." He brings out a bag and asks, "What does this one do?" He answers, "It's a magic bag. Despite how it looks, it can hold much more than it appears." She says, "Surely it was expensive." He says, "No, actually it was cheap, because it only stores chocolate." She asks, "Then why did you buy it? What's the use of a bag that only stores chocolate?" She also likes a magical bracelet and says she'll take it, but before she finishes her sentence, it suddenly falls to the ground and starts knocking everywhere. He says, "I forgot to tell you, this bracelet is cursed. Anyone who wears it loses their sense of place and can't control themselves. Usually, the sensory breakdown can cause their body to tear apart from automatic reactions." She asks, "Then why did you buy it?" Luke also likes a sword and says, "This sword is awesome." Cry warns her to be careful and tells her the sword is cursed, but it's too late. The sword activates and infects Luke, making him attack all his friends. The situation literally spirals out of control. And Cry says the sword usually drives people insane with a strong urge to kill. But what he finds strange is that Luke hasn't changed much. They manage to restrain him and try to bring him back to himself. Cry is literally in another world. We learn that these dangerous tools later became training equipment for them, and they use them to learn how to control their impulses and senses. Back in the present, Caleb is walking from street to street, not knowing where he's going. The white zip chest is essentially a container that keeps expanding constantly, and he's only discovering that now. He keeps walking and is afraid they'll hate him for what he did, for sending them into such a chest. But the most important thing now is to try to find a way out of here. He cuts off his thought. Gilbert says, "Boss, I'm sorry if any of this was part of your plan, but where are we even going?" Cry thinks to himself, "You should ask him." He tells them, "Tina and Tar." You know Cry tests them, and if you don't know his plan, it's part of the training. Also, we've long since moved away from the exit. Gilbert, and even Crip, are shocked. She says to them, "I looked at the map before we entered, and I have an idea about the design of this chest. This path will never lead us to the exit. If we want to get out, we'll have to go back through the leader's room." Of course, Cry must know something like that. At that moment, Cry was quietly cursing her because she figured out important information he hadn't found yet. How will he explain that now? They keep walking. Rhoda has also started to tire and says, "I know all of this is part of the training, but at least tell us where we're going. Believe me, if I knew, I'd tell you." While they're walking, all of a sudden they're shocked. "How did this happen?" She says, "Didn't I tell you this was all part of the boss's plan?" They burst out running down the corridor. Crip doesn't understand what's happening and wonders if the people they were supposed to rescue are hiding here. Crip is the only one who didn't notice, because his gaze is fixed on dispensing healing potions and handing them out. He introduces himself to them and thanks them for being rescued. She tells him, "If you want to thank someone, thank our leader. He discovered everything and led us here." Rhoda tells them she gave them healing potions, but their strength is depleted because of lack of food. Cry remembers the bag we saw earlier and gives them all chocolate. He tells them, "Eat until you recover. Don't be afraid. There's plenty left to eat." Everyone calms down because of their complete trust in Cry, and they feel a high sense of relief. After a while, Rudolph begins to tell them, "We weren't prepared. We never expected the enemy to be this strong." Gilbert is surprised. Yes, the 5Z are powerful, but not to the point of completely overpowering us at 5th level. Rudolph says, "Wolves? Which wolves? The ones we killed?" "What we killed was a small specter with a skull-covered face. That creature is the embodiment of lingering curse from the Silver Moon. After the appearance of the Silver Moon incident, they were left with personal resentment, and later became this being. That's the only explanation for the massive power we saw. We are not weak, but we had no chance against it. Its power was on an entirely different level, maybe even on the level of the 1,000 Swords." Everyone is shocked. 1,000 Swords. A hunter in the capital. Creepers eating chocolate and thinking about what they said. The 1,000 Swords is someone trained by the Sword Saint and learned sword techniques from him. He has a great affinity for swords, to the extent that he can defeat any enemy with a wooden sword. Of course, he himself once fought one of the 5. I to you. If Luke had heard about a monster of this power, he would have come and finished it long ago. Still, I don't think Tina could beat him. I wish I had waited. Rhoda asks him, "What will we do, Cree?" "What can we do?" he replies. "I don't know." Then an idea occurs to him. He tells them, "The leader of this squad is Tina. We must respect the orders." That answers a lot of questions. He tells her, "This is part of the training. If anything happens, I'll step in and help." Tina really thinks and decides that the best option now is for them to try to get out of here rather than fight Creep. He tells her, "But don't forget the injured. Try to move carefully. If they run, they won't be able to escape." They continue on until there is only the leader's room left, and they reach the exit. Rudolph tells them, "I'm sorry about all this. If the Kand appears again, I'll be your shield and buy you some time." At that moment, they begin to hear howling, a sign that they are approaching. Cree looks at his tools and finds that he has only 5 safety rings left. 6 more chances and he will die if he takes a fatal blow. The problem is that he has no other tools left to use. The throwing ring is ineffective against the monsters, and his strongest weapon, the sword tool, slipped out of his hands. He doesn't know where it fell. Am I going to die here? The sound starts to get closer, and they all brace themselves. A powerful force is coming toward them. This is the monster Rudolph was talking about. Cree draws a spear and goes to stand in front of Tina, telling her, "Go, get behind me." He thinks to himself, "I can use the cloak to turn into a human missile. I'll sacrifice one safety ring, but at least I can launch a surprise attack on them." The surrounding air begins to change as the monster reaches the place. Tina trembles with fear. They all know at a glance that it's impossible for them to win. It's on another level. Suddenly, a strange figure with a skull-painted mask appears from behind it. Tina is terrified as she sees him. Cree says, "Who is she? What is she doing here?" Hop suddenly strikes the monster, slamming it into the wall. "Yes, my friend, that's one of the 5. Liz Smart, the strongest yet in the capital." The kids are stunned and don't even get to see the blow in full. She speaks to Cree, asking, "Are these our new enemies, or am I understanding this wrong?" He explains the situation. It's not the right time for explanations. She takes off her mask and says, "Thank God, I didn't expect you to be this weak." She snaps at their group, "Hey, did this one fall out of you?" and gives him the sword tool. Rudolph and the others are shocked and can't believe she's human at all. Cree tells her to calm down. "Liz, Tina did great work today. She fought a lot of monsters and took on the mission." Tina asks, "You mean you like me?" He replies. Then he notes, "I've noticed you've started to gain control of yourself." She says, "Because you insisted, I learned how to finish a strike before it reaches its end." He says, "Yes, It's clear you had to adapt. While they're talking, the monster fires a cannon at them. The matter isn't over yet, Tina. I'll deal with you later. She puts on her mask and prepares for battle. The cannon starts firing at them, as if time halted. She finishes her assault, and Liz also finishes hers. She looks at the scene and is shocked. Liz, metal bullets are law. Were you scared of their work? Do you want their limbs to be eaten by monsters like these? Then she flies at the Zeeb and gives it a kick. Half the monster evaporates and disappears in seconds. Nothing is left of it but her. She grabs her sword and flies at it, but Tina holds it by hand and says, "I don't really understand. What's your problem with a monster like this?" Air rushes in. She smashes it into the ground and follows up with punches. While continuing to teach Tina how to defeat such a monster, Tina is crying and moved by the lesson. Liz tells her, "There's no time. You must exert more effort. If you weaken, people will be eaten." After many strikes, the monster almost vanishes completely. Cree says they were saying it was on the level of the 1,000 swords. It only took her seconds to finish it. Liz Smart is the fastest person in the world. From her speed, no one can catch a glimpse of her after she moves. That's why her nickname is the Suppressed Shadow. And she's a 6th-level hunter. Thus, the mission ends successfully, and they return to the guild. Gilbert decides to hand the sword back and tells them, "This sword belongs to the 1,000 swords. I've decided to go back and relearn the basics with my old team." Cry thanks them and promises, "Soon I'll be able to catch bullets like the Suppressed Shadow did." They all say it's impossible. Tina tells him, "There's something you don't know. The sorrowful souls are made specifically for team members." We go back 6 years to when Cry first put on the masks. There's something important: to make openings for the eyes. They tell him the powerful bones mean light-based attacks won't affect them. Also, if we learn to move while wearing them, we'll be much stronger. Good on you, Cry. From here, the idea of the masks started to spread from Grier. And on the other hand, Cry is nervous and keeps looking for the monkey he used against the wolves, but he can't find it anywhere. I don't have another option. I'll try to forget about it. If you want to see what happens next, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell, because the next chapter will change everything. Tell me in the comments, whose power impressed you most? Cry's resolve, Tina's growth, or Liz's overwhelming speed? Stay tuned. The real fight has only just begun.